Hi guys, I hope that I'm audible. Am I?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been like quite a surprise that Sambar called a couple of days back to give a presentation to the students, and especially not from the design background. So I've been kind of wondering what exactly that I should tell, and since you know architecture is a very broad field, and mostly it comes with a lot of theory and a little bit of logic, and probably like what everybody uses in a day-to-day life. So what I thought is that probably rather than talking about how global designs are involved in our day-to-day life, and then stop calling it probably global anymore, because we are kind of merged the boundaries. So I've kind of done a small presentation. Is it possible to share my screen?
Yes, Vaisakh, it's possible.
Yeah, I think it could.
Sixth option is
I think share screen.
Yeah.
Is it? You can see it, right?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
So I was just just putting out a couple of the slides together to think about how and what I thought this topic should be. It's pretty elaborate, and it's very argumentative topic to ask about how global designs are impacting, because some people are to the fact that design as a term has to be contextual, and it has to be probably vernacular and more something to do with what we know and what our culture is. But at the same time, because of the global boundaries being merged by internet connectivity, travel, communication, this is kind of not possible. So our visions and our ideas are mostly entangled with that we see are not part of just probably all different states. It's more and more the days go further. So this is just use to probably people. This is primarily solving exercise with optimum and betterment from the last known solution. This is what at least we believe as architects, at least in our firm. This is also trying to do something which is better than the last time. Whatever, let's say somebody has invented a font. Today, when we design a font, we need to be better than the last font. There is no point doing a replication of a last font or probably underdoing it. Then you're barely being creative, and the market might not take it right. And I personally feel that that's a waste of our energy. But at the same time, we have constraints like budget, we have constraints like mindsets, we have constraints of local market. So how do you write the success I do with this? So this is what the first slide, and this is about, sorry.
Vaisakh, just to interrupt, I guess there is a lag in your video and audio.
Yeah, okay. Pretty much Wi-Fi is off.
No, I guess still there is some network issue.
Should I join back?
Yeah, you can join back.
I think it'll be fine. I think that.
Did you like that?
Hello.
Yes, Vaisakh, we are all.
Am I back?
Yeah, you are back. Yes,
Yeah.
audible.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I think it's just. I'm quite sure that the kids are, somehow waked up from the bed, woke up from the bed, and then I'm killing them with all the theories.
No, but these are basics, so everybody should know
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Cool. So now it's fine. Is it smooth?
It's smooth now. Yeah,
Okay.
everything is.
So it's just about the path of design. Like I think how do you probably progress in design as a designer? Or I'm sure that people are who is joining Cresta especially is looking for multi diverse options, because that is what, at least when we opened or started the college as a discussion, Sambar was very keen that people who come in, it's not necessary that they have to go out exactly on what they study. They can go in, invent, and then do anything that they think is possible in this world. So just to just talk about the path, and then the first thing that we usually call it is discovery. Like if you, for example, like fire is discovery which is done by Homo erectus, who's the first guys who's probably stood up in the two legs, who's the early monkeys around like a million year. And this is, if it's design, it's not, but this is also a turning point to everything that we have today. So for example, the material conversions of maybe a rock and a sand. Sometimes when I drive the car and when I just hold the steering, I wonder, what is it made of? It is actually made of rock and you know, maybe materials, which is just the 5 or 6 elements that we have in this entire universe. And then designers kind of convert into multiple things and then transform it into something that we can use. So this is not a, invention. It is mostly a discovery, because most of the things that we invent already exist. So it's mostly that you discover it at one point of your life. So creation, when we look at fire as an idea, and then the idea of a person is to make it more compatible for them to use, because for a long time we were kind of just trying to do friction with probably rocks and wood and couple of metals together to strike fire from then on. So when you look at the creation part of it, I think the first match was kind of done by Robert Boyd in 1680. So talking about from Homo erectus to 1680, which is a very recent times, we kind of didn't have control over fire. So we were kind of using different metals and trying to still make it out of friction, which is of course a control over fire, but it was not a designed idea to create fire. But this itself was just an idea of understanding that phosphorus is a basic element which can create fire, and probably controlling it in a such combustible environment, they were able to get the fire back. But then still that was not good. So this is the first invention of friction match, which is like the matchbox, which is today, from that time of 1827 till today. I am sure that people have seen it, people still use it. This is one of the examples of a timeless classic design, which is designed by John Walker in 1827. So this is the first time we could really hold fire in our pocket and use it in the way that we wanted, and not in just any laboratory, or not with some two huge tucks that you have to rub together to create fire. So this is like then it again got transformed into lighters. So this is by Reiner. This is called Reiner's lamp. Again, a German guy who's made it like a lighter idea, which is primarily used in the World War times. And they used to also make lighters out of shell casings to bullet powders to everything. So, but if you look at again an innovation, you look at this like Sippo, which is by again 1930s. This is a design of 1932, almost like say a couple of almost 100 years back. We are still using this as a fashion statement. So what I am trying to communicate through these slides is that it is, we are talking about the same thing, which is fire. Then we were talking about controlling fire, using fire in a way that we wanted. Then we kind of progress into the betterments in usability, in kind of ergonomics, that you can carry the thing, and how easy is it to carry, how easy it to refill, is it sustainable, is it eco-friendly. With the more and more that you ask questions to a particular product which is existing, there is always a step for innovation from what is actually been further. So from the last time, what you did, or what is the product which is existing, you add one more quality to it, you ask one more question to it, you have a chance of innovation. So this is something that I thought I should share with the kids, because we have an idea of things which is being timeless, but yes, it is timeless. Like for example, all of these things are timeless. Like a matchbox is equally timeless as probably a zipper. But the questions that you ask, the quality that you add, I think at every point of life, we have a chance of innovation. So let it be in buildings, let it be in our society, let it be in our own life, let it be in the way that a person look up to certain people, look at your organization, look at your expectations to the college, look at what it has to teach you. I think at every point in your life, you keep innovating it. For example, the book that you read, like you look at, probably you read Alchemist as a book, which is a very common book, probably at your, your 20s, and then you start reading in your 30s, you start kind of giving you different directions or understanding probably. So this is again, as another example of spoon, for example. This happened in like 1000 BC, where mostly used for people used to do this mostly in the religious or spiritual days, and then it became almost something that we use in a day-to-day life. So you look at Homo sapiens kind of started using a knife, which is barely a rock, and then it became probably a bone because we started hunting, and then it somewhere in bronze, and then it started today we have a stainless steel, amazing, more economical, more industrial, more durable, more strong knife. So this is around 2.5 million years ago the design started, and we are still kind of reinventing this at every point. For maybe there are butcher knives, there are like regular knives that you use in your household. So the more and more qualities that you add, the more and more the chance of design. So this is like a scissor. So scissor is identically like one of the last inventions, because it is more towards the first PC, and people couldn't figure out, I think, the elasticity of a metal. And you look at today, we have something called Swiss knife, which is from Victorinox. So I think it was another company at that point of time, known as another company. It is designed in 1890. So you're talking about something which is lasting as a style icon, which is lasting as a multi-tool idea that most of the people know or heard as a brand in the world, standing it for like 100, 120 years, timelessly not changing. So what is this quality of the design is that when it becomes it is global, but it is actually native. So it's, you're designing something which is usable for the world. Everybody in the world can use it. This is something which is very hard to crack as a designer. So you're talking about mostly adaptation, because you're talking about something that you are and something that you're flexible in. And at the same time, can you also break the boundaries, break the chains, and elevate the people to use or to behave one step further than what another person was doing some time back. For example, we might be doing or maybe using a knife, which is barely, a very big thing that you have to carry in a bag, for example. So if somebody can do the same thing in probably a pocket, of course, the entire world would want it. So adaptation to lifestyle, adaptation to change, adaptation to what you're looking for is something that, mostly design is. So globalization, coming to mostly what I'm asked to talk about. So this is today, it's a world itself. So you're talking about the merger of boundaries. You're talking about the one world being one. Like, you don't have a world with multiple states and the countries unless until you look back to the globe, because most of the things that we use today, the world uses it. So the one of the primary examples that I thought was like the dressing styles. It's primarily that how we kind of dressed up in South India at one point of time, where the dudes were all with maybe just the lungis, and then they were just showing off their muscles. And then ladies were like, hardly, in a very particular manner of optimized dressing, and with a particular attire, maybe with a particular caste, maybe with a particular kind of a space or the state or the district or the place they come from. But today, we kind of dress the same. Like if you travel internationally, people kind of dress this way. We kind of dress this way. So if you look at the way in the industry of the clothing has been moved around, which is probably our second skin. We are already globalized because we have a skin, of course, bare naked under what we are. And then the second skin that we have is the fabric itself. But if you look at it, it's already merged. Like we all kind of looks like the same, irrespective of what we look under it. We kind of, aspire to look like the same. We kind of look like, I am quite sure that none of you guys wear a lungi to the college, because I have tried it once and then I was banned. So, but the issue is that, we are looking at something which is common. We are looking at something which is universal. So this is something to do with the contextual memory. And if you look at today, the generations and generations pass by, you don't even relate to the first image that I showed, because for you to dress like that, you might need an ethnic day, because the design is becoming timeless in a way that it is actually traveling back. When you look at it, you need to have an occasion to dress like how you used to dress every single day. So this is something that design does, because over a period of time, design comes into your life. It kinds of change you. It kinds of adapts you into something new. And sometimes the old or probably the original context can be something that you don't relate it to anymore, which is something that we as designers are very conscious, because it can be good, it can be bad. Because the minute that you are also the crowd, you can kind of lose your own soul, or you can lose where you are good at or what you are. So this is a fine line that we talk when globalization pitches in to the native impact, because it is really good, it is really up, raising it up, but we need to be always conscious about where we draw the line. Or it can be even a question whether we really need a life, because it can be one people, one world, one means like the song Imagine from John Lennon. So we are talking about today, thinking global is almost becoming thinking native. So this is what I was trying to do. So when it comes to architecture, so this is Bosco Verticale in Milan. This is one of the examples of probably the prime apartments which has been probably in the world. So this has been done by the designer called Stefano Berri, and this has been done in a way also as an idea of a vertical forest. So you have your apartments, you come out into this beautiful balconies, and this balcony has really huge trees. This is like pretty big. And in the city, it looks like green, and it's an example for a really good multi-dwelling unit. But when you come to our own country, this is what sometimes we see. Like I stay in Sangal Central Park in Yadagiri. I am quite sure that our apartment is not any different. I couldn't find the picture. So we kind of design the facade. We kind of design probably something which is extremely global. And when it comes to our local context, how do we live is something that we kind of usually forget. So we have our clothes. We usually, don't have probably dryers and washing machines, and maybe people just have washing machines and not dryers. And probably we have like a lot of clothes that they use. I don't know what is the reason, but most of the facade of the apartments kind of look like this, because we don't usually provide what exactly called a dry utility for these guys to go hide and probably dry up. So by just eliminating just a need, and by aspiring something globally, because I'm sure that when you drive around these roads, most of the renders of the apartments, or most of the renders of the multi-dwelling units, shopping malls, kind of being like extremely good looking, so that people kind of aspire, okay, this building is going to come in, and the building comes in, we as people take in, and we kind of make this. So I am not contradicting for the change. I am saying that probably when you think contextually, there are lifestyles that we need to adapt when you think globally. So when you are talking about maybe your own business, I'm quite sure that a lot of students who have joined would have their own businesses, which is run by their parents or their family, and people are aspiring to become new businessmen or new businesswomen. Then the issue is that how do you place it right? How do you mix your global taste or the global exposure to something which is local? I think is very key in making something adaptive and running. Cool. So it's about thinking contextual. So I call it chicken sambar. This is something that I really liked and invented when I came to Karnataka. And before I used to joke in the class that we need to make chicken sambar, because chicken is something which is very familiar. Most of the people kind of eat it, but probably whether it came in a Hindu country like ours, maybe at earlier prehistoric time, I don't know. Probably we might be vegetarians, I don't know. But chicken is something that we know today. Sambar is something also we know today. So this is like two different culture, two different ideologies, but familiar ideologies mixing together. So it's something like, is it innovative? Absolutely no. It's actually barely creative, because you're trying to talk about something which is existing called chicken, and which is existing like sambar, and we're kind of placing it right and call it chicken sambar. So it can't be like, two vegetarian in a dish. It can't be like two non-vegetarian in a dish. So I always have felt, what is this? This is something which exactly stays in the middle, which is, so we call it chicken sambar. So I think probably the global initiative or the global design in a native impact, it's mostly chicken sambar, because contextuality is kind of fading away. Originality or craftsmanship, or when you're looking at probably your older, if you look at, for example, the sports club, you can see the building which is extremely nicely done, which has a lot of craft, which has a lot of craft art, and the building itself says so. You look at Mysore Palace, it's kind of that, even though it was recreated and not barely, under 100 years, but still you can see that there is a lot of craft and art part of the building. But today you kind of see the same thing, which people try to mimic, which doesn't have craft, which doesn't have art. It is just barely facades of some random ACP, or you have facades of something which is trying to mimic it, look like a Mysore Palace or probably a sports club. It doesn't have that kind of a quality. So this is where I think chicken sambar comes in, where you need to kind of place it in right in the middle. So this is about constraints, memory, and empowerment. So you're talking about having a constraint in your thinking, because you need to think global. At the same time, you need to understand your constraints. You need to relate to the memory. And if you think or you relate to your memory and you try to lift something by design, you kind of lift it one step up. So for example, a person who has just been in the scooter, you don't give him a 1500cc bike, because it's cool, it's probably a best design probably to give, but not maybe with the constraint and the memory that guy has. So you kind of not give them a 1500cc bike. Maybe you can fairly try with maybe a 300cc or 600cc and eventually elevate it. Why I'm trying to do this example is sometimes we design something thinking that from our context of a designer, or probably if you're a business person or if you're whatever, you kind of always think from our perspective. But when we give something to people, we always have to think about the user's perspective. Is he or she ready to take that step? So they're definitely not going to be, because they want to be comfortable in their lifestyle. So then what do? You just kind of empower them with one step up. So you are a designer, or you as a person, kind of tell them, give some confidence and take them one step up, but not too many steps, because he can't barely climb it and he or she is going to fall. So this is something that I thought as a global design, when it comes to native impact, we need to clearly look at. This is Winston Churchill, and this is something that we, or architects, as at least me, very, very clearly believe in. It's about we shape our dwellings, which is the buildings, and thereafter they shape us. Because it's that, what do you do? Like, say that, we make a college like Cresta, and they have like, multiple open doors to the corridor. So me and Sambar was discussing that time, do we really need so many doors and all? So then I'm like, okay, probably after 10 years, people don't have to sit in the same class. Maybe after like 15 years, people don't have to, all the time ask the teachers and get out. Maybe most of the classes will be online booked, I'm sure. Like today's, how do you, book a meeting room, or how do you book book an office space, like a co-working space? You will know which class that you're sitting at one point of time. You might not be interested in that class. And I'm also sure that the more and more we are progressing, the more and more students get to choose, and also people get to choose after trying it. And people might just come in, for multiple lectures. They might hear the first lecture, they don't like it, they get out. Because at least when I was studying in Europe, this is something that I found really interesting, that you go to, like, in the beginning of the courses, you can go to like n number of courses. The first week the college doesn't open at all. The first week you go to any number of class that you want to pick up. Of course, the more amazing the teachers are, the more amazing the lectures are. You have a lot of people waiting in the queue. You go to the lecture, you stand in the lecture, understand what that lecture is about, and mostly the teacher will give you one assignment. And then even if you want to be in that lecture, for him to take you, you need to write a small thought about what that lecture mean to you, or what is that subject mean to you. They go through everything and they place you in that particular class. So I thought, okay, probably that is something which is very good. So probably you keep like an n number of doors open, so people come in and people go in whenever they want, but not today, probably not tomorrow, but definitely for the coming future. So this is like, how do we shape our building? So what we make is what we become. So your house is like all cramped out, no ventilation, absolutely no light, no greens. You become absolutely a psycho at one point of time, because what you're seeing is always You're going to be an interior generation where you only see like artificial lights, you only see artificial stuff. You kind of look at your TV and not look at the tree outside. This is going to have an impact on you. So what we create is what we become. And in case of design, in terms of everything, this is something that I thought is that we have, because it's like, we as a snake eating the same tail, we go in a circle. So I thought the most important part out of all the serious stuffs that we are talking about is to have fun in thinking. So if we can't have fun when we do stuff, that means that we don't love what we do. So in case of design, in case of what you study, in case of what you are, I think it's most important as students and it's most important as individuals to have some fun when we do our work. So to do great work is to love what you do, and to love what you do is to have fun when you do. So I think when you want to innovate, when you think that what you want to do, the most important part is to have fun. And when you have fun, people are of course going to criticize. People are, is it going to be the right design? Is it going to be the right direction? Is it how my girl has to go progress into, my boy has to progress into? Absolutely, don't worry about any of these things. What you need to know is that you have today, and you need to do the best out of today. So it can be in terms of what you're doing. If you're doing what you're doing right, you need to like it.
Right.
Cool.
Vaisakh, hi, Dr. Srinivas here.
Yes.
There may be some questions by students in between. Would you like to take it?
Yeah, why not?
Is it okay? Yeah, all right. So
Yes.
students, in case you are interested to ask some questions in between, you are free to do so. You can interrupt a little bit and then move on.
Yes.
While they are thinking on the questions, I would like to have one from my side too. So
Yes.
you're mostly focusing on buildings which is into steel and glass, something like that, right? Have you any time thought about involving some greenery into it?
Of course. See, the thing is, the first idea of a person is to build vertically with green. The problem today is that the square feet price that you pay for the landscape. So the issue is that when you look at glass and steel, which is mostly like a product or a solution, and it's not really, we can't really call it as a building, mostly because it's like the requirement. For example, Cresta was done in like 100 days. So we had to come up with a building which is assembled very fast on site, which has to be done very quick, and also set an example of probably a sustainable way of building it. So when it comes to the facade, we were like wondering whether we need to block it, whether we need to put it with more walls, whether we need to put it more green. But when you're looking at, like, say, example of that campus, which is almost close to 1.2 to 1.5 acres, we are almost like 10,000 square feet of an acre, which has been left in the mid in the front. What do you really have is the south side and the central courtyard that we can play the green with. So when you integrate green into the building, there is something called sunken courtyards which comes in, which is a very expensive affair. But primarily, if you look at all the campus projects that we are doing today, we kind of at least make sure that some kind of a green is in the project. Because when you come in, when you open a balcony, or when you walk through, what you become relatable to is actually landscape. Because everything else is probably something new to you. The lifestyle can be something new to you, but integrating green is definitely good. And probably to build right in our context is to even have buffer. Like, say that there is a facade and we need to have a veranda in the front, because that is something that if you look at all the older houses that we have, and then you come into the green. But when we go up vertically, taking green is a very expensive affair. So this is mostly in terms of the management and the people who are interested in. Otherwise, we always propose with landscape and green, but like it or not, we kind of get that area chopped up, because this is something that people can avoid. But that is not really the way to do it, because it's like cutting a tree. Like a guy who's been cutting a tree just to the apartment, I was wondering, like, do he really knows what he does? Because actually he doesn't know. The problem is he's thinking that he's just cutting a tree, but everybody thinking of cutting that particular tree in collectively is making every small reasons to this such a big impact that we have today. So I don't think we can, maybe at maybe 500 years back or 100 years back, we could still build buildings without the green. To answer back to your question, I think it's very important to integrate greenery on all levels and try to manage it and maintain it well, because today's we have systems like an automated refrigerator, like that simple as a system, availability of plants which can grow in any shallow depth, I think we should integrate the green into every part of the building which is possible. I am personally for it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And you can continue with the presentation. In case some students have some questions in between, you can message me in the chat box, and then probably we can go with the questions little moving forward. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes. Hi, kids. I'm really sorry that I have to do this because I absolutely don't know whether you guys are interested, not interested, because I can't really see your faces. And this is something that we, kind of get in with Zoom calls. But you like it or not, I think just care it for like 5 minutes and then I'm done.
I'm sure this integration of your buildings as well as the other part of your music and other discussions, what you're doing is excellent, and I'm sure students are enjoying it as I'm doing.
I hope so. Otherwise, it's okay. We still see in the camera sometime, hopefully.
Right.
So this is like funny thinking. For example, music as an idea when we were discussing. This is something that is, I have always thought, why music? Because music doesn't cook you food. Music doesn't give you anything. This is somebody who's like, really crazy invented it. Because if you look at the invention after the fire, the next thing which was invented by people was flute. It is unbelievable, but it's actually what it is. So flute, it's just an accidental invention, of course. But, music kind of encouraged us to do many things today. People wrote poetry, people wrote poems, people wrote music, and then we all relate to it. But, we don't really have a tangible or a quantifiable outcome of what music is. But this is also design, because if you look at the notes of the design or notes of music, it's like maybe like how many you're talking about. And you're talking about how many is the amount of music which or the albums which has come in the world. It's like millions of them. So with few notes, with the combinations and permutations of placing it right, we have amazing music. So this is an example of maybe thinking in fun, not necessarily to have an output which is which is a product. So this is like a Eiffel Tower. I'm sure that everybody is familiar with it. It's in Paris. But again, looking at it, I don't think I like a lot of people ask, what is this? Is it just a statue or is it just an icon? Or why Eiffel Tower? First of all, it's just 300 meters and then probably one of the tallest of Paris. Now it is shared as a building, but before it was Eiffel Tower. And then you look at this, and then people wanted to really show, because this is after the First World War, and people really wanted to tell to the world, hey, come to Paris, and this is the place of dreams. This is a place that you can build anything. So this statue had more than a usable, tangible function to it. It was also hope. It was also aspiration. It was also sending out what that country stood for. So this is also, I felt like, it's fun in thinking, because it's not really something that probably the country needed at that point of time, but they did it to tell what the world has to look Paris for up to. So this is another principle of something called a green garden city by the Ebenezer Howard. This is also the idea when we started moving in away from villages and started building together. This is something that, people are keen on, like, building green around with it. But if you look at Mysore, we are also trying to do the same. We are radial in plan. It's basically circular in plan. We also have parks at every few layouts that we have is to integrate the idea of garden cities into the building. So this is a global thinking. This is primarily thought in American cities when it's just, been rebuilt after the World War. So, but the impact of the thinking of somebody has been almost carried to the continents, and we are trying to do somewhere in Mysore at the same time. So just wanted to tell you about how the global idea was connected, even not like it's been always connected, basically. So for this, the primary thing I thought that people need was vision, because without vision or thinking or looking into the future, I don't think any of us have any growth. Because sometimes we need to take that leap of faith, believe in what we do. Of course, has to be backed up with some kind of a theory or theoretical involvements that we have a vision and move further. So this is about how to think. How do you start thinking? How far you can think? How much is your vision? What is that you can think through? Is it 2049 Blade Runner movie, or is it like 2200 a movie that you can think of, or what the generations can be? That's something that movie making has a skill on. So how far you can see through, or how far you can anticipate. And most of the things are not just random. They have backed up with logic. They are backed up with what they think is, and then they come together, kind of draw some conclusions, and then gain into design. So if you are, this is just an exercise for the kids. So this is something that I almost try to ask to most of the people. So if I ask you guys to design a car, let's say, we all design a car. Okay, tomorrow design a car. So forget about the machinery, forget about everything. But do we design this? This is Ambassador, of course. It's one of the greatest car. I'm not symbolizing it and saying that it is underrated and bad. But this is like, one times maybe the Porsche of India. And this is something that which is kind of done. Probably we might not have the capacity to rebuild it again. It is shut. Ambassador as a factory, it is shut in Chennai. And now when you are looking at designing a car, you might design something like this, which is like, say, Chiron from Bugatti. So we are talking about one of the fastest cars. And because there was no budget constraint here, I just told, let's design a car. So it can be also somebody who's been already seen a Chiron will be also thinking about a flying car. So what I'm trying to depict through these two images is exposure. Because what we need to know is that today, since you are going to invent your own businesses, since you're going to do your own design, you are talking about a global exposure for sure. Because when you're going to venturing into something new, you can't be just thinking local anymore. You have to understand what is that which has been already existing in the world, what is that the world is talking about. And if you don't know that, you might design an ambassador. Because for a guy like me who has been coming from village, looked at the car for a long time, probably one of the best cars that I've seen was Ambassador. So what I do, the next car, when I asked, or when my teacher asked me, hey, can you design a car? What do I design? The max I design will be like a Mercedes-Benz C-Class or an A-Class. I won't design a Chiron because I won't know that something like Bugatti is existing, or maybe Koenigsegg is existing. So what you need to know is that, if you know Chiron, probably you will design a Koenigsegg, or you might design an McLaren F1S. You might design something new. So what we are talking about is that international exposure is very, very important for you to start thinking today. So it is about placing it right and playing it right. So you need to understand where your product stands, where your design stands. You are also talking about placing it in a particular kind of a place, which it can be sold, it can be appreciated, or it can be even used. Because probably doing a Chiron in India might not be a good idea, because I think by the time you reach the house, you might not have the bumper, or you might not have the flash card, because this might be completely gone because of the roads. So probably what we need to do is, again, going back, understanding what the world is talking about and placing it contextually, like when I go back to my earlier slide, and playing it right. So this is what I thought that I will talk about design. This is going back to the first 3 steps of design: discover, create, and innovate. I hope that you guys you will find your discovery of passion, because I call it discovery as passion. You understand by the time you go through the college what you like, or what are you passionate about, what do you want to create, because absolutely no boundaries are there for you today, because what do you think can be what the world is thinking. It's before it was like really hard, probably somebody to start a business in Devaraja Road to think about globally, because probably he had to more worry about what the local guy is thinking, but not necessarily the same anymore. So I hope that you discover yourself in Cresta. I hope that you find your passion, and then you understand how to take it forward. Try to create your ways to find your passion and motivate yourself to understand what you want to create. And at every point of your life, I hope that you guys innovate. And yeah, I think that's all I think a college can give you, because in our college, when you study architecture, they don't teach you how to build buildings at all. They will just give you or direct you to do these 3 things. And I feel it is kind of the same. And as the proverb goes back, I think a good teacher is somebody like, this is something that I found it very interesting when I started teaching. It's about like an average teacher tells, a good teacher explains, and a great teacher inspires. So it's not any different from an institution where you're going through. And I'm glad that you probably would have chosen it right, because here we are not talking about teaching you something, or you're telling you something A, B, C, D. You guys know it. And also telling you exactly that the way that I know it, make you me. That's it. Or maybe like a one level down me. But we constantly have to understand what we are, look for the originality that we can in our thinking, kind of courageously follow the dreams. Of course, there is fear, but I think you should have courage over the fear. And then please have the kind patience to innovate you throughout in your lifetime. I think that's all. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you, Vaisakh. Vaisakh, we are receiving
Kaushik, just 1 second. Just for the benefit of the students, correct? So Vaisakh spoke about courage. So I think some of the students who are attending today's seminar are from your final year degree. So this is exactly when I think I was in my 6th semester, maybe 2nd or 3rd day of my college had started. And this was in 2016. Jan 24th or 25th, I'm not exactly sure of the date. 3 or 4 days before my birthday, I had met Vaisakh. I was pretty young at that time, and so was he. But then, this is where courage comes in. Correct. I took the courage of walking into his cabin as a student and asked him that I want to build a college. He took the courage of trusting me and maybe start doing research on it. Correct. Certainly, it took a lot of time for everything to materialize. But what started was a conversation of how a good educational institution can be built, how infrastructure, design, architecture, all that can become a part of Mysore's education system. So this is, I will take the liberty on behalf of Vaisakh to invite students to have a chat with him. Whenever you think you have an idea, it might be a cafe, it might be a hotel, it might be a restaurant, it might be an institute, it might be a hospital. I don't know what it is that you would like to build in the future. But if you don't know from where to start, like I didn't know from where to start, so I knocked on Vaisakh's doors. I would take the same liberty for all the students attending today's seminar. If you have an idea of building a hotel and you don't know from where to start, now you have your answer. Walk into Vaisakh's office or send him an email or call him. And if he doesn't receive those calls or doesn't answer, bother me. But I'll make sure, and I'm sure Vaisakh will agree with me that we'll take that conversation forward. At least we will make sure that there is a vision that you have through the process. So any activity, any kind of building business that you want to set up, I will take the opportunity to invite you on behalf of Vaisakh.
See, now you know how to do marketing.
Thank you, Vaisakh. Thank you. Over to you, Kaushik. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no. Again, it was very interesting to see your presentation, and it was very, very enlightening for me also. From the timeless theory to getting evergreen designs. So I didn't knew that Swiss knife was first made in 1980s.
Yeah, 1890s. 1890s. Actually, most of the things, like, look at straw the straw that he used today, even in tender coconut, it is like some 1800s. Look at safety pins. Look at paper clips. Look at all these forks, steel cutleries. Most of the things which is part of become our lifestyle is all 1800s, because when Industrial Revolution came in, and we could kind of melt metal into, whatever the format that we could. From that time onwards, like most of the things, like for example, your director's chairs, your folding chairs that you see in Decathlon, this is all 1900s. So we kind of like, staying with the same, and it's high time that we have to do something about it.
So Vaisakh, do you think that every utility design is for a longer time? So these are evergreen designs.
It is lifestyle. See, for example, like I told you that this is that. Like, for example, seat belt. Seat belt was invented by Volvos in 1800s again, like, in 1930s, like when after the Ford came in. So, and wipers, for example, these things were all invented by probably Ford, people were invented by Volvo. This is utility, but it was also something which was not existing. So I think the lifestyle changed, but for example, food has existed before, cutlery has existed before. So, but at that time, there is a new utility, there is a new design. And when there is a change in lifestyle, that is when I think design usually emerges. For example, there was before, you have a tap, which is just a cold water tap. Then when the hot water facility is available, let's say somebody invented geyser. or an electric geyser or a solar geyser, suddenly there is a requirement or there is a possibility for the tap to have like, two kind of water. So then there is a need of design. So I think utility definitely calls for design, but it also is in collaboration, because design is always a collaborative process of the world. I think that's what I would say.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Vaisakh. Again, I have received one question from Rohit, third year BCom.
Hi, Rohit.
Hi, sir. This is Rohit from third year BCom. My question is looking forward into the future. We now currently we are facing many problems like climate change. There's less availability of land for use, and there are also less resources. And on the other hand, the population is also rising. So, looking forward into the future, what do you think the designs or the architecture will be in the future?
See, it's a very commonly
to the problems.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Rohit. See, the thing is, this is a very prominent question that the world is asking today. And see, there are multiple ideas. Like, for example, in Europe, they talk about something called Zwischenstadt. Zwischen is a German word for between. Like, it's been between the city and it's between the village. So what they try to do is they move around away from the urban locality. Like, say, for example, like, the central, for example, if you look at Mysore, the first circle, we have like, two circles. The third circle is coming in. The first circle, nobody lives in. It's going to be purely for business. And we live in the second ranges, and we have to go vertical, because the land availability is going to be, like you said, like in a per square feet, every single day, the cost is going to be up. So the only way for a city to sustain, for all of us to sustain in the near future, is to go vertical. We can't be sprawling. Like, for example, Mysore is sprawling like that. It goes away and then gets increased. The road get increased. The transportation will become a problem. We can't reach from one place to another place. If you look at Bangalore, you look at, what they call today Bangalore was not 5 years back. So it kinds of sprawls. Chennai sprawls. And eventually the cities will start, merging into the boundaries, and will have issues. So in Germany, what they're doing is they're trying to already propagate, rather than getting into the spaces which is already existing. For example, doing a renovation in the first layer of the city of Mysore will be very difficult because it's densely packed. So what they do is they don't touch that. They go away. They kind of build around in a particular model that we want, and then clean the sector. So once the model is been done there, they move the people from the center, make them there, and then reinvent or readapt to what is happening in the middle. To answer to your questions, 100% it has to be renewable, because we can't take solar energy anymore granted. We can't take wind energy anymore granted, especially places like our country where there is a huge solar gain. We don't use it at all because solar is coming in an expensive money as a product. But now it is coming down. There are subsidies. There are people who are making it in cheaper prices. Even big players like, SpaceX is going to be, or Boring Company is going to be investing on solar. They're going to make it more, viable for people to take it. But then now the question is design being adapted to that. Design being, ventilative, people, or maybe passive ventilation, for example, using water, like whatever that you're flushing out of the toilet and just keeping it in a septic tank, even throwing it to the sewer. We have to reuse it. So STPs will become something, or a sewage treatment plant will become 100% must for even smaller houses. All these businesses that are wasting will stop, because we can't afford to, lose out a single resource anymore. So design for the future is going to be vertical.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
We have second question from Syed Mohammad Hussaini from 6th semester BCom. So Syed, you can switch on your microphone and camera.
So good morning, sir.
Hi, Syed.
I'm Syed from final year BCom. So my question is, as we know, Cresta is so unique and different. So how did you get that idea to,
Sambar said that, build something cheap. No, it's basically that, see, the idea was, we were facing towards the north. First of all, you don't have such a north facade, such long, like almost like a 150 feet, which is looking to the north. So if you look at the movement of the sun moves from east to west through south. So it never touches north. It slightly gets inclined towards the north when it is winter. That is why you have shorter days, because the sun kind of reaches to the west pretty fast. So if you look at north as the facade, we have a huge light which is coming from the north, which is reflecting from the clouds. So we don't have a direct glare hitting you. So that was something that we had thought. So we thought, okay, it has to be definitely modular. So if you look at Cresta, everything is done in a 2100 grid. Grid is something that we call for a bay. So it is one single thing, which is a 2100 grid. The only, and it's just 14 feet high. So it's basically a box, just a pure box, very easy to make, extremely simple to a fractal. We call it like a design of a fractal, like a lotus, like lotus flower. It's like, or look at the flowers, it's just a small thing. It's the same idea, but it's just repeated at multiple hierarchies. But the contextually, when you look at it, it's one single thing. So if you ask Cresta as an idea, it's just a matchbox, which is 2100 by 2400 hour. So you kind of, merge it together. The idea was first to make it fast. The second thing is to take the maximum light in. The third thing, to not it look like a college at all. Like, first of all, why do you, going back to the contextual memory of what I was talking. So when you design something, like I don't have to design it like how my college was looking like, because I was like 30 years old. So I don't have to design for me. I don't have to design for my dad. I have to design for you guys. You are all the cool generation who's coming in, who would like to, be in a place which is more unique, probably. Like it or not, whether it's a good building or not, we don't know. I frankly don't know. But the thing is, we believe that it can be a better building by taking the first step. You study it, you make it better, because the only way to go forward is to experiment. So then me and Sambar was like extremely supportive. So he was like, we always fight, but that's a different thing. But he is like, architects and client has to fight, otherwise there's no fun. So when you come in, it's that, he said, okay, let's do something, and do something which is that. And his education system, what he was talking about, or the idea of students coming in, students becoming behaving the way, or teaching you self-respect, I would say that way. Like, that is something that I think is very core, rather than, putting it in a box. You need to put people in a box, teach them how to respect themselves. So then, you don't have to have so many corridors, shady areas, places to sit around. So we wanted to create something which is so transparent in and out. So I would wanted actually people to see from the road how you guys behave inside the building. So every point, how do you are, how you move in, how do you communicate that to the ground? How do the playground will have a communication with the OIT on the other side? So the idea was transparency. So this is completely from the brief that we have got from the management, and we try to kind of reciprocate the same. So idea, I think it's just, I personally believe that when you sleep, it comes, but mostly, mostly this is the foundation of thinking. Mohammed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, so the next question is from Jivita, first year BBA.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hi, Jivita. Hi. Good morning.
Sir, you said you were an architect. Then from where you found a passion or interest or inspiration to become an architect?
That's a good question. So I'll tell you this. This is a very true story. So I was born in a village in Kerala, like a really village. Like, the cars have started coming in like in a few years back. The biggest was the auto rickshaw. So but I had a lot of pets, like, I had like a lot of pets, like a lot of rabbits, a lot of pigeons, a lot of American fishes, lovebirds, to whatnot. So I started taking care of them. And every day I come back from the school, of course, we don't have like the TVs was not having the internet connections, or it was not smart TVs, no phones. So you kind of come back and you start taking care of the pet. And then every day I used to make something on the cage. Like I used to make the buildings for it, like, how these things can go in. So one fine day, I wanted to become a CBI, I wanted to at least work in forensic. I was interested in physics. So my dad is like, and I was not, of course, a fit person. Like I was like, more angrier person. So he said, if you go there, they're going to kill you. So try to think about something else. So then he actually flawed in the idea. He said, every day you come in and start looking at the cages. So do you really like what you do? I said, yeah, I like carpentry. I like what I'm doing. But then I thought about it. See, what we do today is that cages for humans, isn't it? So we make a bigger cage and put the humans in it. So at one point of time when he asked that question, I kind of thought that, whether I like the pets more or the process of building the cage for the pets. So that is where I kind of got this idea that, okay, maybe I like to make the habitat of, like, for example, like, if you make a cage for a lovebirds, you need, like, certain kind of spots and other kind of dark areas where they can go and breed. When you look at pigeons, they actually, kind of group together, and they need a particular kind of space. Rabbits need completely a different kind of space. Dog would like something else. So this is something, as clients, if I take, these are the things that I understood without their telling us. So that is when I thought, probably architecture is cool. And one more thing that I was like, I was a confused kid. Like, I wanted to be that, I wanted to be this, I wanted to be that. I'm quite sure that a lot of people sitting inside the class, you still is. So I thought, okay, if you're confused, then probably get into a place where you don't have to be stuck in a place. So architecture, if you have to do, like, say, college, I need to understand, how many teachers, how many staff, what they teach, how they move. You look at people, like, students, what are they liking? What are they looking forward to? What is their aspiration? What is their building has to be? Look at a restaurant. You need to understand probably the more star restaurants or the Michelin star restaurants that you do, the more that you understand what kind of wine glasses, how many courses of wines, how many courses. So you design an airport. You're talking about a plane. Maybe you're talking about a Boeing. You're talking about A360, A380 fighter planes, whatnot. So architecture for me was more of an idea not to become stagnant, as an idea to understand the subject more, so that your learning kind of continues and not get fragmented at one point. So I took up architecture on a very selfish course to learn probably something new.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jigada.
Yeah. So Professor Guru has one question. So
yeah.
Hi sir.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning. Yeah, I have a question. What is your opinion with respect to Vastu? Because nowadays, this Vastu and all, they're very keen about following this Vastu for their house or a building or an office building.
I'm like, today more of a Vastu guy than an architect being like, so the issue is that, see, Vastu was a very strong reason. Like, at one point of time, it was super contextual. See, earlier people couldn't, first of all, build. There are multiple Vastu. There are just Vastu positions, and then there is perimeter Vastus, which is actually about the max of it. So I'll just briefly explain how it came. So if you look at our locality, which is the south zone of India, we have water all around to that coast. So the first, most of our wind comes from southwest to northeast. And when there is rains, and it kind of comes into the landmass, that just started hitting Kerala, and the rain kind of moves up towards Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and goes almost to the mid-mass. And because of the gravity, it kind of splits away, go to the Himalayan ranges, gets cooled again, and come back. So we get wind two times. Like, during our summer, we get the wind from northeast because it's raining and cool that side, northeast to southwest. And during rains or during regular days, we get southwest to northeast. So if you look at the position of a kitchen, it is always in southeast area. So this is where it is going to be extreme corner. So from southwest it hits. So your smoke or the fire doesn't come inside. Or even if the fire blows, it doesn't blows to the lady. It blows to the outside or towards the wall, so that you don't have it touching anymore.